You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. This is AJ Black here. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope you've had a great week. On today's show, we're going to look at the transfers at Boston College. I'm going to go through and talk about each one and give you kind of my rankings on their importance in terms of this year's roster. I'll give you that. The previous week's practice, I'll give you some of the names that are starting to pop off on the practice charts and give you some names to watch for. There was a big one I think that's really exciting. And then we're going to jump into the news. So let's jump into the news first. That's how we always start our Locked On Boston College podcast. And the first piece was the Senior Bowl. Now, the Senior Bowl is a postseason fun all-star game for all the seniors and graduating juniors or anyone who's declaring for the draft. Now, it's a big exhibition game in Mobile, Alabama, and it's hosted by Reese's. I love Reese's. And tons of scouts from the NFL are there to watch those workouts. Last year, Hunter Long was the participant from Boston College. He didn't actually play in the game. He practiced with the team all week, though. He was the one, and now this year, Boston College has 4 players that are on the watch list, which is basically kind of like they could get invited, who knows, and things could change. Those players were, no surprise, 3 of the offensive linemen. That'd be Alec Lindstrom, Zion Johnson, and Ben Petrula. I mean, if I was to guess right now, I would bet Lindstrom and Zion are going to get it anyways. Petrula, he could play his way into it, but he would be more of a long shot. And then Trae Barry, the tight end from Jackson State, he also was on the watch list. Now, if you're looking at snubs, I always like to look at, who do they leave off? The biggest one to me was Deion Jones, the safety. I think he's pretty good. I think he's got a lot of potential, but he's going to be one of those guys that's going to have to show it. And most of the guys that are on this list in terms of watch list, all have to show it, right? It's going to be so Deion Jones is one. Marcus Valdez is another name that I think of someone who could take that next step. I think a lot of people, I just saw Mike Farrell had him on his underrated players of the ACC. If Valdez takes that step forward, I've always said with him, if he got a hair faster or a hair stronger, he's going to be really good. And from everything they've said, with weight training and everything, he has. So it'll be interesting to see what he will do this year. He's a smaller defensive end, but leverage can be interesting when you're smaller at that position, so we'll have to wait for that. Those were 2 ones. Another one that didn't surprise me was Brandon Sebastian. Again, he's got to kind of show it. He's going to get out there and have bigger games in order to make it onto that watch list. Now, the big thing to remember, too, with the Senior Bowl is that by the end of the season, any player that declares for the draft, if they're a junior or a redshirt sophomore, they've done their 3 years, if they declare, they can still go to the NFL draft, just like Hunter Long did last year. I mean, they can go to the Senior Bowl, just like Hunter Long did last year. So that opens up some interesting possibilities for Boston College. Could someone like Zay Flowers or Phil Jakovic, I know you guys don't want to talk about it now, but could they end up in the NFL draft? That's a very big possibility. I think it's something worth watching for as they head into the end of the season. I mean, I don't want to talk about them, and I want to get, let's enjoy the season first, but they could be 2 names to watch for. And there's other players out there too that could obviously declare early, such players as, Jalen Gill or Tyler Vrabel. There's different possibilities. So it's just fun. It's a watch list to look out for. So those are where they're at with that. Now, the other piece of news has to do with recruiting. And I know whenever I talk recruiting, the hits blow up because everyone wants to talk about it. So the name to watch for is Cam Johnson. And that's the name everyone has been talking about for the last couple weeks because everyone's hoping that Boston College can kind of wrap up their recruiting class with a 4-star. And that is what Cam Johnson is. Cam Johnson is from St. Francis Academy. That's the same school as 4-star cornerback CJ Burton. And then this year they have Jamal Hood and Jude Bowery, an offensive lineman, from St. Francis as well. This is a school that has a great relationship with defensive backs coach Azar Abdul Rahim. And it's in that, that DMV area where he just kind of knocks it out of the park. Now, with Cam Johnson, it's between Boston College and Virginia Tech. Now, he's done visits to both. I believe he's done an official and an unofficial visit to Virginia Tech, and that was the last visit. So keep an eye on that. The other piece to look for as well is that Boston College has a handful of cornerbacks already. They have, as I said, Jamal Hood. They also have Amari Jackson, while Virginia Tech only has one. They just got Mansour Dulane, another defensive back, today. So it could be. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. I will have my official prediction. I have to stew about it a little bit. I got to think about this a little bit more. I will have my prediction on where Cam Johnson happens on the BC Bulletin page under our premium section. So if you want more information, if you like recruiting, then check that out. But I know that he's like a name that everyone wants, so this will be an interesting one. And I have some interesting thoughts that I'm kind of working through here. And finally, in terms of, this is just a plug for me. I haven't had a chance to brag yet, but I finally got my blue check on Twitter. So it's AJ Black is now officially verified on Twitter, so it's easy to find. You'll find my posts. They usually pop up more frequently now. I promise you I won't be annoying. So if you haven't already, find me and you'll see the little blue check mark. It means I'm important. Yay. I don't know. I thought it was cool. I was waiting for that. Just so you know, too, I was rejected, I think, twice before that. But that was because of my attention to detail, where I screwed things up on their application. I had a friend from Clemson help me out, and we got it done pretty quick. So check me out on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. And if you like this podcast, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. It's hosted by Candace Cooper. It involves a rotating amount of guests from around the Locked On network, including yours truly. I will be, once we hit football season, be talking to her about Boston College and Clemson. Those are the two schools. We don't have a Clemson podcast yet, so I get to cover them for the podcast. And it's not cover, just talk about them. But we'll be talking about those games, and you can check out everything. We talked about this week the Olympics. We talked about Simone Biles. We talked about all sorts of different things about the ACC as well that you're going to want to check out. Check out Locked On ACC wherever you get your podcast. Now, let's talk about Sweat Block. Sweat Block is doctor created, doctor recommended for those men and women who sweat. And I sweat a ton. And this is where you need to have it. Now, me, I go out there and, I go to a wedding. If I go outside in a suit right now or a shirt, I'm going to sweat through it. It's just, I'm a sweaty guy and I hate it. But you need to check out Sweat Block. It works for 7 days per use. It's dry shirt guarantee. If your Sweat Block doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. It's a simple little wipe. You just wipe the areas that you feel like you sweat, and boom, it's great. It's easy to go. Now, whether it's for a big presentation or a hot date, anyone can benefit, and it's easy to use, and it's easy to carry. You can just throw it in your toiletry bag, and boom, you have it. Now, I know this sounds good to be true, but I literally only have to use Sweat Block once or twice a week, and it keeps me dry the whole time. No pitting out, no more picking up my shirts based on what color hides the best sweat. Now, get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com with promo code LOCKEDON or at Amazon and CVS. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. We are talking about summer football camp, and I'm giving you all the updates that you need for the Boston College Eagles. If you haven't been able to, catch some of our posts online or read and watch some of the awesome recaps that they've done on Twitter, this is going to be the place to go for your recaps of practice. Now, as I've said before, for the media at Boston College, even if I could go to practice, and right now I can't get to some of them, they only have 25 minutes open to the public. So it's not like I could sit there and watch 3 hours and go, oh, that guy stood out and this guy stood out. It's a little bit challenging that way, but we'll go with what they have, and we'll give you the details that you need. Now, so when we're looking at practice, right, you're not going to see all of the names that you normally see because, they're not going to push out, that Zay Flowers had a big game or a big practice or Phil Dracovic. They'll say they hit passes here or there. For me, the practice notes that really stand out to me are the names that you're not used to seeing. The names that are guys up on the rise, guys that maybe have earned Hafley's trust and are rising up the depth chart. And there was a few today that I thought are worth talking about. And none was bigger than Jaiden Williams, who's a freshman wide receiver from Texas. Now, he's not even the biggest wide receiver name that they got, right? They also landed Lewis Bond and Dante Reynolds, both from Kenwood in Illinois. But Jaiden Williams is a name you're going to want to watch for because today he had 4 touchdowns during their practice session. 4! And he drew comparisons in the notes to Zay Flowers. They said they saw a little bit of Zay in him and the way that he moves and the quickness that he has. I know Tyler Calvaruso from 247 Sports said something very similar about his preview of Williams when he did his recruitment. So Jaiden Williams, man, I think what's really interesting here is how deep Boston College's wide receiver crew is, because we didn't even talk about Jaiden Williams. I mean, I've previewed him a little bit, but I didn't know he would be this good. And it's only practice, so I can't really get into it. But, practice warriors sometimes can turn out to be game day flops. But, excitement, right? You get excited. 4 touchdowns, that's good. And that means he's going to be playing sooner rather than later. So now you look at the wide receiver group. You have Kobe White, who Hafley has talked about as being a guy who is getting better. Now, he said yesterday, Hafley said that Kobe is looking better every single day. There's some still things that he's working through, but with a month left, he thinks that he's going to be ready to go game one. And he's seeing all the things that made him an exciting. I think the other thing that Hafley said was, I see all the things that make him an exciting wide receiver when I looked at his tape from 2019. So you have White back. You have Zay Flowers, obviously. I don't need to talk about Zay. Everyone knows about Zay. You know what you're getting there, an explosive wide receiver. So you have 2. You also have Jalen Gill, who on my site today, under one of my premium articles, I give it a little award, and I'm not going to tell you what exactly it is, but I have huge expectations for Jalen Gill this year. And I think he may have numbers that parallel Zay Flowers. And I explain why on my post. But so you have those 3 already. Then you add in C.J. Lewis, a big target down in the red zone. 6'3", big guy that can high point balls. You have Jelani Gill, another wide receiver who kind of, stepped up. And then you have these 2 wide receivers you haven't even played yet, Ethan Williams and Taji Johnson, we haven't seen either of them in games in a while. This team has incredible depth at wide receiver. And to have Jaiden Williams come in and automatically you might need to get him into games. You're all of a sudden thinking, okay, how are they going to fit him in there? Because you want him to play. If he's as good as Zay Flowers, you're not going to bench him. If you have 2 Zay Flowers out there, and I think Jaden Gill could be the other one, Jalen Gill, you could have 3 out there that are really good. That makes you an explosive offense. So the Jaiden Williams news I thought was really interesting. The other big name that popped up was Izaiah Henderson, and I've talked about him before. He missed all of 2019 with an injury, but he is back. He's a defensive tackle. He's a redshirt freshman, and he had a big practice today. Had a tackle for loss during 11-on-11. So he's a name I think you could watch out for, because you have Buzi Onwuka at defensive tackle, but that other tackle position is open, and it could go to TJ Ram, it could go to Chris Banks, it could go to Cam Horsley, but Izaiah Henderson could get it too, because Jeff Hafley has said all camp long he loves competition, and the guys that earn it are going to get it. That's a position, that second defensive tackle position, I think someone's going to have, maybe someone could jump up, and maybe it could be Izaiah Henderson, so he's one to watch for. And another name to watch for, I'm not sure what he'll play for a role this year, but I'd like to talk about is Jake Bazico, who is a transfer from UMass. He had 15 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, a sack and a forced fumble for the Minutemen last year. He transferred to BC. I believe he's a preferred walk-on, but he had another big practice, so he's another name to watch for, along with Donovan Azaraku, who I've talked about as well. So you got all these new names on defense, and maybe some of them will jump up to get that starting role. I think a lot of the starting spots on the offense are already kind of drilled in, but there's a lot of competition, and that's what Jeff Hafley wants. He wants competition on defense, and I think he's found it. So that's exciting, and we're going to continue as we get closer to game time. We're going to get into more of these practices. I hope to get to a scrimmage. I hope they open a scrimmage to us, so that I can watch a full practice and get the full experience and tell you more about the players. But for now, this will work, and I can give you some more. And in our final segment, we'll do the press part. So Jeff Hafley talked about the transfers, and I'm going to talk to you about what these transfers could bring to Boston College in 2021. And I'll rank you on who I think could be the most beneficial to, who could be just a complimentary player. Before we do that, BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Before the next pitch, head on over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their run to the playoffs. And with football opening up, BetOnline is a fast and easy way to get involved in all your football wagers as well. Head on over to BetOnline and use promo code LOCKEDON to receive that 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now, let's talk about Built Bar. And a little side note, if we're talking about Built Bar, I hope you saw the news about the BYU thing that Built Bar did. Built Bar gave out 36 scholarships to walk-ons as part of the BYU program. And they did a really cool presentation to them during team practices. I thought that was really neat. And it was really, you don't get proud of some of the sponsors, they're just sponsors. But this one I did. I was like, wow, I'm glad I talk about Built Bar. And not just because of that, because they're delicious too. Now, Built Bar comes in 9 delicious flavors, and they include coconut, almond, cookies and cream, double chocolate, you name it, they have it. And they're delicious. They're 100% covered in chocolate, and they are soft and easy to chew. There's 17 to 18 grams of protein in most of them, calories ranging from 130 to 180 calories. And with only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, you are not going to beat this. They're delicious. Head on over to built.com, and use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll receive 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 at built.com.
Good. Luckily they've been here. Our GM's really starting to understand the defense. So he's playing really well. Woodbey's another guy. We're thankful he's been here since January. So really starting to, understand the defense. The nice part is they're part of the team now. It's not like they just got here. So they worked all off season. They know the guys. So it's not like you're out there and say, well, that's a transfer. We're all here now, but the guys are doing nice. Trae Barry we've talked about. Chris Banks is doing a good job, but they're integrated really well, and they're competing with everybody here. And like I said, hopefully, they'll help us win some games this year.
That is Jeff Hafley, Boston College head coach, talking about the transfers that have been included into his program. Now, he kind of goes on to talk about why they have transfers on the school and in the program, and how he decides them. He wants to make sure that they have a relationship with someone in the program, or at least someone has had eyes on them, whether they're a good fit for their locker room, because culture is very important. Now, he grabbed, I think, 5 or 6 this offseason. And each one, I think, is going to play an important role in Boston College's upcoming season. Now, let's look at who some of these players are. Now, the most important to me has to be Jaiden Lars-Woodbey. Jaiden Lars-Woodbey is a safety from Florida State. He was a former 4-star / 5-star, depending on where you look, recruit, another blue chipper, just like Phil Dracovic, just like Jalen Gill, that Boston College was able to bring in on this time on the defensive side of the ball. He's a safety, but can play linebacker. They can move him all over the place. And in a defense that is in dire need of a playmaker, Jaiden Lars-Woodbey could be that. He has the ability to take over games. You see film of him just wrecking quarterbacks on blitzes. He's lightning fast. And I think the change of scenery for Jaiden Lars-Woodbey is going to make him a very, very good defensive back, and one of the best defenders Boston College has on a defense that is in dire need of someone like him. So he's going to be my most important, because right after him, number 4 is like right below him is Trae Barry, the tight end. And Chris, our listener, who always jokes about me being in love with tight ends and the whole jokes about that, I think Trae Barry is going to be it. He's 6'4", he's got a huge wingspan. He moves like, I saw people comparing him to a poor man's Kyle Pitts. And, if you compare any tight end to Kyle Pitts, sign me up. And he gives them another weapon. Now, I've talked in the first segment about the wide receivers. You get a tight end like that can, eat up a linebacker with his speed, or use his size to destroy a safety. Add that in with Zay Flowers, Jalen Gill, and some of these, Kobe White and some of these other players. That defense is all of a sudden, going to have that big of a problem trying to stop this offense. Now, the big question mark with Barry is, can he transfer it from the FCS game to the FBS game? We'll have to wait and see. I'm excited about that. But let's hear from Barry himself. Yeah, he talked to the media after Thursday's practice about what he thinks about Boston College.
I knew Boston College was going to be a great fit. I have Irish roots, great school academically, and then the history of the tight ends has always kind of been pretty great. And then it's been going really well. The coaches are doing a tremendous job helping me learn the offense, learn all the installs. They're coaching me up like I've never been coached before, and it's awesome. I'm really enjoying it.
That was Trae Barry, the tight end for Boston College. Now, as I said, he's exciting as well. Coming at number 3 in terms of value to this team, I'm going to put Chris Banks, the defensive tackle. And the reason I put Chris Banks on there is because he could play multiple years for BC, and BC's in dire need of some good depth at that defensive tackle position. So I put him up there. I don't give him enough credit sometimes, and I feel like he should be up there. And right below him is Izaiah Graham-Mobley. And I was debating on both. Actually, you know what? I'm flipping this. Izaiah Graham-Mobley just ahead of Chris Banks. Izaiah Graham-Mobley, BC has been talking up how good he has been during practice. BC is in desperate need of somebody to step up for linebacker, and there's no better one to step up than Izaiah Graham-Mobley, who, like Chris Banks, is coming from Temple. So they're coming from defenses that didn't play all that well. However, a change of scenery for anyone can be good. You saw what Buzi Onwuka did last year. You saw what Deion Jones did. Maybe the same can happen for Banks and Graham-Mobley. And finally, I hate putting him down there, but I'm going to put Alex Sinkfield near the bottom. And I'm only saying that because I feel like Boston College can get away with not running the ball. I feel like as much as I want to see them do it, with this offense, they may not need to have a dynamic runner. It'd be nice. But maybe they have a guy that can just get 3 or 4 yards of carry. Sinkfield's going to be an explosive runner. And if they really are serious about keeping the offense balanced, he could play a bigger role. I just feel like with an offense like they have, Travis Levy's fine. Pat Garwo, I feel like, could take a step up. Sinkfield could be good too, but he's not as important as some of these other guys. Well, folks, that's all I got today. As you can hear probably from this, I've had to pause this numerous times. Oh my God, I've had this cold. My son just started up daycare again in the last couple of weeks, and the colds he's brought home to me have knocked me on my butt. And so I have no voice left, and I need the weekend to recover from this. So I hope you all have a great weekend. I'm going to be sucking on cough lozenges and drinking tea. I'll talk to you all again soon, and we'll see you again on Monday. Take care, everyone.